The shape of tomorrow. When Arjun was 12 years old, he took apart his father's old scooter and never quite managed to put it back together. What remained on the garage floor was a chaotic puzzle of metal panels, wires, bolts, and grease-stained dreams. His father had stared at the wreckage, sighed deeply, and said only one thing. "You don't destroy machines. You listen to them." Arjun never forgot that sentence. Years later, standing inside the design studio of Ether Automotive, he finally understood what it meant. The studio was silent in a way that only places of intense concentration ever were. Light flowed in from the ceiling, diffused through white panels, reflecting off clay models, digital screens, and glass walls. On one side, engineers argued quietly over aerodynamics. On the other, designers sketched lines that would never exist unless hundreds of people believed in them. In the center of it all stood Arjun, lead exterior designer for Project Helios, the company's most ambitious car yet. It wasn't just another vehicle. It was meant to redefine what a car could feel like. 1. The first line. Every car began with a line. Not an engine. Not a wheel. Not a computer simulation. A line. Arjun held his stylus above the tablet, hesitating. Around him, his team waited. Helios had already been delayed twice, and the board wanted something bold, something that looked like the future but didn't scare people away from it. He drew the line in one smooth motion. It curved gently upward, like the horizon just before sunrise. "That's the shoulder," he said quietly. "The car shouldn't look aggressive. It should look confident." Maya, the aerodynamics lead, leaned closer. "Confidence costs drag," she replied, half smiling. "Only if we're lazy," Arjun said. They laughed, but they both knew the truth. Designing a car was a negotiation between beauty and physics, emotion and math. The digital model began to grow, panels forming, proportions adjusting automatically. Artificial intelligence assisted, but it never led. Arjun refused to let it. "A machine can optimize," he often said. "But it doesn't dream." 2. Clay in conflict. 2 weeks later, the first clay model stood under bright lights like a sculpture in a museum. At full scale, Helios looked alive, even unfinished. The surface still bore fingerprints, tool marks, tiny imperfections that told the story of human hands shaping it. Arjun walked slowly around it. The front fascia felt right, calm, clean, almost serene. The side profile flowed like a single breath. But when he reached the rear, something felt wrong. It ended too abruptly. "This doesn't finish the sentence," he muttered. Ravi, the chief engineer, crossed his arms. "The rear is optimized for cooling and crash structure. Changing it means months of revalidation." Arjun met his gaze. "Then we change it anyway." Silence. This was the eternal war inside car companies. Designers wanted emotion. Engineers wanted feasibility. Executives wanted profit. Somewhere in between lived the car. "If people don't turn around to look at it," Arjun continued, "we've failed before the engine even starts." Ravi exhaled. "Give me a proposal." 1 week. That night, Arjun stayed late, sculpting the clay himself. He remembered his father's words and pressed his ear, figuratively, against the shape. "What do you want to be?" he whispered. The rear softened, stretched, then resolved into a subtle taper that felt inevitable, as if it had always been there and they had simply uncovered it. 3. Designing emotion. Cars were not rational purchases. Everyone in the industry pretended they were talking about efficiency, safety ratings, resale value, but Arjun knew better. People bought cars the way they fell in love. First with their eyes. Then with their heart. Only later with their head. Helios was designed to evoke trust. The headlights were narrow but warm, angled just enough to suggest awareness rather than anger. The body lines avoided sharp creases, flowing like water around obstacles. Inside, the philosophy continued. The interior team removed unnecessary buttons, but not to be minimalistic, rather, to reduce anxiety. The steering wheel felt solid, grounded. The seats hugged without trapping. Materials were chosen not for luxury alone but for honesty. Leather that smelled real. Metal that felt cool. Screens that didn't scream for attention. Maya ran her hand across the dashboard mock-up. It feels human. Arjun smiled. Good. Cars should adapt to people, not the other way around. 4. Failure at 120 kilometers per hour. The first prototype drove beautifully until it didn't. At 120 kilometers per hour on the test track, Helios developed an unsettling vibration. Not violent, but persistent, like a nervous habit the car couldn't shake. The data didn't lie. Airflow separation at the rear. Turbulence. Lift. Ravi threw his helmet onto the table. I warned you about the rear. Arjun said nothing. He watched the replay again and again. This was the part outsiders never saw, the heartbreak hidden behind glossy unveilings. Every great design carried scars. That night, Arjun stood alone in the wind tunnel, watching artificial air scream past the model. Smoke traced invisible paths, revealing truth without mercy. The line he loved was betraying him. So he compromised, not by giving up beauty, but by redefining it. A subtle lip. A change of angle barely noticeable to the untrained eye. Function disguised as form. The next test run was silent. Stable. Confident. Free. Ravi clapped him on the shoulder. You listened to the machine. Arjun thought of the broken scooter in his childhood garage and smiled. 5. The boardroom. The executives wanted numbers. How does it compare to competitors? What's the manufacturing cost delta? Will people recognize it as an ether? Arjun presented calmly, showing not just specs but stories. Images of how light moved across the surface at dawn. Videos of people instinctively smiling when they saw the prototype. This car doesn't shout, he said. It invites. One board member frowned. Is that enough in today's market? Arjun paused. People are tired of being shouted at. Silence again, then nods. Helios was approved for production. 6. Launch day. On the day Helios was unveiled, the lights dimmed and music swelled. The curtain lifted slowly. For a moment, there was no applause. Then phones rose. Whispers spread. A low hum of appreciation filled the hall, not explosive, but deep. Journalists wrote words like elegant, thoughtful, refreshing. Customers placed orders not because of horsepower figures, but because it felt right. Arjun stood at the back, unnoticed, watching people walk around the car the same way he once had in the studio. One child traced the side with his finger. That's my favorite part, the boy said. Arjun felt something tighten in his chest. 7. The road ahead. Months later, driving Helios alone on an empty highway, Arjun rested one hand lightly on the wheel. The car responded instantly, smoothly, like it understood him. He realized then that car design wasn't about domination or speed or even innovation for its own sake. It was about dialogue. Between human and machine. Between dream and discipline. Between the past and the future. The road stretched ahead, curved gently toward the horizon, just like the first line he had drawn. And this time, he knew he had listened.